Hey guys, so I did a makeup shoot because I wanted to try something new, mostly do like boudoir, bodysuits, glamour, all that fun stuff. But I was searching around on the Instagrams and I saw a really high-end, photographed, retouched makeup shot, and I was like, I want to try something like that myself. So I asked Rachie Mack to shoot with me because she's got great bone structure, awesome facial features, and she was following a makeup artist named Reeve Artistry, and we all got together and did this shoot. So the lighting setup is a beauty dish for the key light. It actually has a speed light in it. I would have used a more color accurate strobe, but I don't have a Bowens adapter for this beauty dish, so I used a Godox TT850 version 2 speed light in it, which actually ended up working great. Then off to the side on her right is a Explore 400 Pro in a strip box, and it's got a grid on it there. And then shining onto the background, I have another Explore 400 Pro. Use that on the background because I wanted to just kind of blow it out, and speed lights aren't great for blowing out backgrounds. And then I have a reflector right below her, just kind of bouncing some of that key light back up into her face. And that's our lighting setup for this first look. Okay, so let me go through and show what I did for this image. This is the out of camera image. This is the retouched layer. I try to work non-destructively, but there's only so many things. Like, there's dozens of layers that I do for frequency separation, and then if I like it and I know I'm not going to go back, I'll just merge it back down. And I do that at the very, all throughout my retouching, and I end up with this one layer above the original image. So if I do want to go back to the original image, I can just mask out or go back that way. But what I did is I copied some hair from around this area and put it over here. I did a lot of skin retouching, which is frequency separation, and you can find that on the Flurn channel. There's a ton of different frequency separation. It's a Gaussian blur layer and then a high pass layer, and it's apply image down to the Gaussian blur layer, if that makes any sense. So I did a bunch of that, and then I went in on the stray hairs and I used my clone stamp tool. If you go here, clone stamp, you go up to here and you go to either lighten or darken. Right here, these two. If the stray hairs are lighter, you set the thing to darken those lighter stray hairs, and if they're darker, you go lighter. So I did all that, got this layer here that I have, so you can kind of see a little bit of the difference. This shoot was more of a makeup shoot. I intended to zoom in really close on the face, but then I liked kind of how the shoulders and everything looks, so then I ended up spending a little time fixing the hair, but it's not perfect. And then I put a new layer with some dodge in the hair. This gives a little bit of pink back into the skin, if you can see here. So this right here is a frequency separation all in one layer. It kind of gives this extra smoothness to the skin. I'll do a video on it, but just a high level explanation is you put your layer, you make a new layer, invert it, put it on vivid light, put a high pass filter on that, and that creates your blur actually. And then you set that to where the blur looks kind of nice and soft, and then you go back in and put a Gaussian blur onto the high pass layer, and that actually creates your sharpening, and you sharpen that to where you feel like it brings back some of the detail. It's a very subtle thing, but I really like how it makes the skin just a little bit more creamy, if that makes sense. I don't know if you can see it very well on YouTube because of the compression, but I put that on there. This one is a channel mixer with some of the greens and reds darkened down, set to multiply, and this is kind of like a little dodge and burn style. And then there's shed freckles on her skin before we put foundation over, and I thought I could bring them back, but then they just kind of looked a little bit don't know, they didn't look great to me, so I ended up just keeping it as like a full retouch kind of thing. Then I put a vibrance layer on, so the lips will just be just that much more punchier. And then I brightened the catch lights. I actually took a brush with a hard brush with a circle, painted a white circle over her eyes, went in here, masked out some of the eyelashes a little bit, and brought up the catch lights a little bit here. What's this layer? This layer is probably nothing. Sometimes I do that. I just have a layer that I might have thought of doing something and then I forget about it. Then I have a curves layer to just kind of darken the kind of under the chin here. Some of the hair in the back, the neck a little bit. I think that just kind of draws a little bit more attention to the eye area and the face area up here. And then this is a layer that it's like a safety layer, so I make the selection and then I make a new layer, an empty layer that has the mask on it that I can like command click and bring my selection back. I know that you can go up and save your selection, but I don't do it that way. There's a million ways of doing stuff in Photoshop, and this is just the way that it has worked best for me. So it's just kind of an empty layer that hangs out there. I can bring the mask back. So I'll give you another before and after. So there's your before and there's your after. Just a little bit of how this was done. This next look is 3 lights. There's the first light, which is the key light. It's a Explore 400 Pro, and it's got a softbox on it, and it's got just the outer baffle on it, no inner baffle. To me, that gives kind of a beauty dish feel, but a little bit softer. And then I have a strip light off to camera right with another 400 Pro on it, and it's got the grid on it. And then I have the beauty dish off camera left with the speed light in it. I'm using those two as just rim lights, so the modifiers aren't critical, just as long as you're not getting flare. I would use 2 strip boxes, but I don't have another one with a Bowens mount on it because I'm converting all my stuff over from Alien V's right now. The funny thing about this is the photo that we chose was actually one where I caught a blink, and it just worked out great, so we kept it.
Oh.
That was a blink too, I think.
Yeah, it was a blink, but it's perfect. It looks so good.
Okay, here's the walkthrough on this one. Let me turn off all the layers. So here's our original out of camera image. Same thing here. There's a retouching layer. Let's see what all these things are. I've totally forgotten. So there's a retouching layer here. Same thing. I try to work non-destructive, but you get so many layers, and I just keep, I try something, merge it down, try to merge it down when I like it. So it's like you have worked on this one single layer for hours and have this to show for it. So I've got this retouching layer, and then right here I just burned the hair a little bit more because it was just too eye-catching, and I wanted to be more focused on the face. Again, these were supposed to be more closer up on the face, but then everything kind of seemed to work out pretty well, and the hair looks fine, so I retouched some of it. Here's a little bit more hair retouching. I just stamped or gathered some hair from over here and put it over the front temple near there, and then same thing here. And I actually liquefied her shoulder to be less sharp, which is funny. I thought it would look too photoshopped with as sharp as it was, but that's actually natural, so I brought it out a little bit. And then I brought down this lighter area with curves because that was drawing my eye a little bit too much. I did a little more dodging and burning with the channel mixer. And then here is selective color layer, and I just kind of brought in the reds a little bit, just bumped them up here in the reds, just kind of gives her skin a little more pink softness. And then I have a vibrance layer here that brings out the eyes, the makeup in the eyes a little bit more, makes them kind of pop. So I'll go, here's a before, here's an after, And then in Lightroom, I actually cropped it in a little bit more so the top of the head isn't shown quite as much. But that's kind of a workflow of how I retouched this image. Hopefully this helped give you a few ideas, maybe gain some insight on lighting, Photoshop kind of workflow. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments field. I'll do my best to answer them. Consider liking and subscribing, and thanks for watching.